The red sun of Ashengarda beat down on Jakob Thorn's back as he climbed down into the canyon. His boots slipped on loose rocks, sending small stones tumbling into the darkness below. He caught himself against the canyon wall and took a breath. The air tasted like rust and dust. Jakob was a surveyor. His job was simple. Walk across the empty lands of this new world. Scan the rocks. Mark good places for mining. And move on. He had been doing this for 3 years now. Always alone. Always walking. The scanner in his hand beeped. Something big was down in the canyon. Something metal, maybe. The readings were strange. Jakob frowned at the small screen. The numbers made no sense. Too much heat. Too much movement. But there was no sound. He kept climbing down. The canyon walls rose high on both sides, blocking out most of the light. Shadows grew long and deep. Jakob turned on his helmet light. The white beam cut through the darkness. Then he saw it. At first, Jakob thought it was a crashed ship. The thing was massive. Easily as long as 3 cargo haulers placed end to end. Dark scales covered its body, each one as big as Jakob's chest. But this was no ship. This was alive. A dragon. Jakob had heard the stories. Every colonist had. Ancient creatures that flew between stars. Beings of legend that disappeared long before humans left Earth. Nobody believed the stories were real. Nobody except the old spacers who swore they had seen shadows moving in deep space. The dragon lay on its side. Its huge wings were folded against its body, torn and burned. Black blood pooled beneath it, steaming in the cold canyon air. One of its front legs was bent at a wrong angle. The smell hit Jakob then. Burning meat and something else. Something chemical. Plasma burns. Jakob had seen them before on colonists who got too close to mining accidents. These burns covered the dragon's side and neck. Whatever had hurt this creature had meant to kill it. The dragon's eye opened. Just one. The other was crusted shut with dried blood. The eye was gold, bright as a sun. And it looked right at Jakob. There was intelligence in that eye. Understanding. The dragon knew it was dying. Jakob should have walked away. Protocol said to report any xenofauna immediately. Let the science teams handle it. Let someone else make the decisions. That was the smart thing. The safe thing. But Jakob had never been good at following rules when they felt wrong. He dropped his pack and pulled out his medical kit. It was designed for humans, not giant space dragons. But burns were burns. The dragon watched him approach. It did not move. Did not try to attack. Its breathing was shallow and fast. Jakob worked through the first day without stopping. He cleaned the wounds as best he could. The dragon's blood burned his gloves, eating through the material. He had to change them 5 times. He used all his antibacterial spray on the plasma burns. It probably did nothing. But he had to try. The dragon made no sound. Not a growl. Not a whimper. It just watched Jakob. With that golden eye. When night fell, Jakob set up his emergency shelter against the canyon wall. He could have left. Could have climbed back up and returned to the colony. But something kept him there. Maybe it was the way the dragon looked at him. Like it understood what he was doing. Like it was grateful. The second day was harder. Jakob's supplies were running low. The dragon's breathing had not improved. Its wounds were too severe. Jakob knew enough about medicine to know he was losing this fight, but he kept trying. He rigged up his water recycler to drip water near the dragon's mouth. The creature's tongue, black and forked, lapped at the moisture. Jakob mixed his emergency ration powder with water and left it in a bowl. The dragon ignored it. On the 3rd day, Jakob ran out of medical supplies. He had used everything. Bandages, spray, pain medication, all gone. He sat against the canyon wall and looked at the dying dragon. The creature's eye focused on him again. Slowly, painfully, the dragon lifted its head, just a few inches off the ground. Jakob stood and walked closer. The dragon's mouth opened slightly. Not threatening. Something else. Its breath washed over Jakob, hot and smelling of distant stars. Then it lowered its head again and closed its eye. Jakob stayed until sunset. He gathered his empty pack and looked back one last time. The dragon's chest still rose and fell. Barely. Maybe it would die tonight. Maybe it would die tomorrow. Jakob had done all he could. He climbed out of the canyon as the red sun touched the horizon. His body ached. His hands were burned and blistered. His water was gone. It would take him all night to walk back to the colony. When he reached the canyon rim, Jakob turned back. The darkness below was complete. He could see nothing. He stood there for a long moment, then turned away and started walking. Jakob never filed a report about the dragon. He told no one what he had found in that canyon. The colony administrators asked about his 3-day absence. He said his scanner had malfunctioned and he got lost. They believed him. Sometimes, in the months that followed, Jakob would think about the dragon. Wonder if it had died alone in that canyon. Wonder if he had made any difference at all. Wonder if the whole thing had been real, or just a fever dream brought on by too much sun and solitude. He never went back to that canyon. Did not want to see the bones. Did not want to know that his efforts had been pointless. 8 years would pass before Jakob learned the truth. 8 years before he understood what his choice had set in motion. 8 years before the dragons returned. 8 years changed everything. The small surveyor camp that Jakob had known grew into a real colony. Ashengard now had 3,000 people. Farms stretched across the valleys where Jakob used to walk alone. Children played in streets that had not existed when he first arrived. The red sun still beat down, but now there were trees to provide shade. Trees that humans had planted. Jakob was not a surveyor anymore. He sat in an office now, wearing clean clothes instead of dusty field gear. Settlement administrator. The title felt too big for him. He still thought of himself as just a man who walked and scanned rocks. But the colony needed someone to organize things. Someone to make decisions. Someone who knew the land. So, they chose him. He sat at his desk, looking at reports on his screen. Water production was up. Good. The southern farms needed new irrigation. He made a note. A family was requesting permission to build a house near the eastern ridge. He approved it. Simple things. Boring things. Safe things. Jakob rarely thought about the dragon anymore. 8 years was a long time. The memory had faded like an old dream. Sometimes he wondered if it had really happened. Maybe he had gotten sick in that canyon. Maybe the heat had gotten to him. The mind played tricks when you were alone for too long. The door to his office opened. Chen, the communications officer, stepped inside. She looked worried. "We have something strange on the deep sensors," Chen said. She pulled up a display on Jakob's wall screen. Numbers and graphs appeared. "Look at these readings." Jakob studied the data. Large objects at the edge of the solar system. Very large. The sensors could not get a clear reading at this distance, but the mass estimates were enormous. "Ships? Ships?" he asked. "Maybe. But the energy signatures are wrong. These readings look almost biological." Jakob felt something cold touch his spine. Biological. He pushed the thought away. How many? At least 50. Maybe more. They are too far out for accurate counting. Chen crossed her arms. "I sent a message to Earth Command. Asked for information. Asked for instructions. What did they say?" Chen's face told him everything before she spoke. "They said they have no ships to send. We are on our own. They suggested we prepare to evacuate if the objects show hostile intent." Jakob stood and walked to the window. Below, he could see the colony main street. People walked and talked. Children kicked a ball. Normal life. They had no idea what might be coming. "Evacuate to where? We have cargo ships, not warships. If something hostile is out there, we cannot outrun it. I know, Chen said quietly. What do we do? Jakob turned back to her. We wait. We watch. We prepare. Tell the council to meet in 1 hour. Do not cause panic. But we need to be ready. Chen nodded and left. Jakob looked back at the screen. Those massive objects were moving toward Ashengarde. Slowly, but steadily. They would arrive in less than 3 days. That night, Jakob could not sleep. He stood on his apartment balcony and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, something was coming. He thought about the dragon for the first time in months. That golden eye. That intelligent gaze. He wondered again if it had been real. The next day brought worse news. The objects were moving faster. Chen's team had finally gotten better sensor data. The readings made no sense. The objects had mass, but no metal. Heat, but no engines. They were moving through space in ways that ships should not be able to move. Could they be alive? Jakob asked Chen. They were alone in the communications center. The question sounded crazy, even as he asked it. Chen did not laugh. She pulled up more data. Look at this. Energy spikes that match breathing patterns. Temperature variations that match blood flow. If these are ships, they are like nothing humans have ever built. Jakob stared at the numbers. Something stirred in his memory. That canyon. Those scales. That impossible creature. Have we received any communication from them? Nothing. They are not responding to our signals. They are just coming. The council meeting that evening was tense. The colony leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to pack up and run. Others wanted to stay and hope for the best. A few suggested trying to fight, though everyone knew the colony had no weapons beyond mining equipment. Jakob let them argue. He had no answers. Finally, he stood and raised his hand for silence. We cannot run fast enough. We cannot fight. All we can do is wait and try to communicate. If these beings are intelligent, maybe we can talk to them. If they are not. He did not finish the sentence. And if they are hostile? Someone asked. Jakob met their eyes. Then, we do our best to protect our people. We evacuate who we can. We save the children first. But we do not give up. The meeting ended with no real plan. What plan could they make against the unknown? On the third day, the objects were close enough for visual confirmation. Chen called Jakob to the communications center at dawn. She pointed at the main screen. Jakob looked and felt his breath catch. Dragons. Hundreds of them. Flying through space itself, their massive wings folded against their bodies. They moved between the stars like fish swimming through water. Each one was the size of a large ship. Scales reflected starlight in colors Jakob had no names for. Blue and green and gold and silver. Are you seeing this? Chen whispered. Jakob could not speak. He was seeing it. The dragon from the canyon had been real. And now its entire species was here. At Ashengarde. Coming toward his colony. His hands shook. Why were they here? Did they remember him? Did they blame him for not doing enough? That dragon had probably died in that canyon. Maybe its kind was here for revenge. Jakob, Chen said urgently. They are broadcasting something. It is not in any language our systems recognize. But they are definitely trying to communicate. Keep trying to translate it, Jakob said. His voice sounded far away. And Chen? Sound the evacuation alarm. Get people to the shelters. If those things decide to attack, we need everyone underground. You think they are hostile? Jakob looked at the screen. The dragons were still coming. Their formation was tight, organized, military. I do not know what they are. But we need to be ready. The alarm began to wail across the colony. People stopped what they were doing and looked up in confusion. Then they saw the evacuation notices on their screens and started moving. Parents grabbed children. Workers left their posts. Within 30 minutes, most of the colony was underground in the emergency shelters. Jakob stayed in the communications center with Chen and a small crew. If this was the end, someone needed to see it coming. Someone needed to try. The dragons entered orbit around Ashengarda. They circled the planet like a living storm. Jakob counted them on the sensors. Not 50. Not 100. 237 dragons. An armada of living creatures that flew between stars. Chen suddenly gasped. Jakob. Look. The sensors are picking up something else. Behind the dragons. Far out. Moving fast. New readings appeared on the screen. Ships this time. Real ships. Metal and engines and weapons. Dozens of them. They were not human designs. The hull configurations were all wrong. Too organic. Too strange. Are those with the dragons? Jakob asked. Chen shook her head. No. Look at the trajectory. They are on an intercept course. They are chasing the dragons. Jakob leaned closer to the screen. The new ships were moving fast. Very fast. And their weapons were charging. He could see the energy build up even at this distance. Chen, get me every detail you can on those ships. And find out if the dragons are seeing this too. Already on it, Chen said, her fingers flying across her console. Jakob, I am getting the translation program to work on the dragon broadcast. Bits and pieces are coming through. I think they are trying to warn us. Warn us about what? Chen looked at him. Her face was pale. I think they are warning us about those other ships. Jakob, I do not think the dragons are here to attack us. I think they are here to protect us. Before Jakob could respond, the communications console exploded with alerts. The unknown ships had entered weapons range. They were not targeting the dragons. They were targeting Ashengard. They were targeting the colony. They were targeting every living thing on this world. Jakob gripped the edge of the console. 3,000 people were counting on him. 3,000 people were underground, hoping he would keep them safe, and the sky above was about to become a battlefield. The unknown ships broke through the outer orbital zone like arrows through paper. On the main screen, Jakob watched them come. They were not like any ships he had seen before. Their hulls were dark and wet-looking, as if they were made of some organic material. Spines jutted from their surfaces. They moved in perfect coordination, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. Like a single mind, controlling many bodies. Chen, are you getting anything from them? Jakob asked. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the console until his knuckles turned white. Any communication? Chen worked frantically at her station. Other officers moved around the communications center, their faces tight with fear. Everyone knew they were watching something terrible approach. Wait, Chen said. Yes. They are broadcasting. It is coming through now. A sound filled the room. It was not a voice. Not exactly. It was many voices, speaking as one, layered and echoing. The translation program struggled to make sense of it, but finally words appeared on the screen. Surrender or extinction. Your world will feed the collective. Your bodies will become us. Resistance is meaningless. Jakob felt ice water in his veins. The collective? What is that? Chen's fingers flew across her console, pulling up data. Searching our database now. Wait. Oh no. Jakob. We have reports. The outer colonies. 17 of them have gone dark in the past 6 months. The last transmissions mentioned ships like these. Ships that consumed everything. People, animals, plants, everything organic. The Karvesh Collective, one of the other officers said, reading from his screen. They travel from world to world, consuming all biological matter to fuel their growth. Once a planet is stripped, they move on. Jakob looked back at the main screen. The Karvesh ships were getting closer. He could see details now. The hulls pulsed like living tissue. Weapon ports opened like mouths. Behind them, the dragons held their orbit, not moving, not attacking, just watching. How long until they reach us? Jakob asked. 30 minutes, Chen said. Maybe less. And the dragons? Still not moving. Still broadcasting that same warning in their language. I think they are trying to tell us to stay calm. Jakob laughed. But there was no humor in it. Stay calm. An alien swarm was coming to eat every living thing on Ashengard, and they wanted him to stay calm. He grabbed the colony-wide communication system. His voice would reach everyone in the shelters now. Everyone hiding underground, waiting for news. This is Administrator Thorne, he said, keeping his voice as steady as possible. We have hostile ships approaching. They are called the Karvesh Collective. They are extremely dangerous. I need everyone to stay in the shelters. Keep the children calm. Do not come to the surface for any reason. We are doing everything we can. He released the communication button. Everything we can. What could they do? The colony had mining lasers and drilling equipment. The Karvesh had weapons that could strip planets. It was not a fight. It was an execution. Jakob, Chen said urgently. The Karvesh are hailing us directly now. Audio and visual. Put it on screen. The main display changed. The image that appeared made Jakob step back. The creature on the screen was not solid. It shifted and writhed, like it was made of 1,000 smaller things all moving together. Eyes appeared and disappeared across its surface. Mouths formed and spoke and vanished. It was like looking at a nightmare. Human settlement. The thing said, in that terrible multi-voice. We are the Karvesh. We are many. We are one. We have consumed 17 of your worlds. Your species is weak. Your defenses are meaningless. You will open your shelters. You will come to the surface. If you resist, we will tear your world apart to reach you. If you surrender, the consumption will be quick. Choose now. Jakob forced himself to look at the shifting, horrible image. This is Jakob Thorne, Administrator of Ashengarde Colony. We will never surrender to you. If you want us, you will have to come and get us. The creature's form rippled. Something that might have been laughter echoed from the speakers. Foolish. We have consumed billions. What are you? 3,000? 4,000? You are not even a meal. You are a snack. We come now. The screen went dark. The Karvesh had ended the communication. Jakob turned to Chen. How long? They are accelerating. 10 minutes. Jakob. What do we do? 1. The buy. What could they do? Jakob looked around at the faces in the communication center. Young people. Old people. People who had come to Ashengarde to build new lives. People who trusted him to keep them safe. He had no plan. No weapons. No hope. We fight, Jakob said. We use everything we have. Mining lasers, cargo ships, everything. We make them work for it. We do not go quietly. Jakob, one of the officers said, pointing at the screen. The dragons. They are moving. Jakob spun back to the main display. The dragons were breaking orbit. All 237 of them. They were not fleeing. They were positioning themselves between Ashengarde and the approaching Karvesh fleet. They were forming a wall. A living wall of scales and claws and ancient power. Are they protecting us? Chen whispered. Before Jakob could answer, the lead dragon began to glow. A golden light built along its scales, starting at its head and flowing down its body to its tail. Then, another dragon lit up. Then another. Within seconds, all the dragons were glowing. The light was so bright that the sensors had to adjust to prevent damage. The Karvesh fleet did not slow down. They came on like a wave of darkness, ready to crash against the wall of light. Jakob saw weapons charging on the alien ships. Biocannons that could dissolve metal. Projectiles made of compressed organic matter that exploded on impact, spreading consuming enzymes. The dragons waited until the Karvesh were almost in range. Then, as one, they opened their mouths and breathed. Fire had been one word for it. But this was something else. Plasma. Pure energy, pulled from the stars themselves and channeled through biology that should not exist. The breath weapons of 200 dragons lanced across space in streams of gold and white. The light was blinding even on the sensors. The first wave of Karvesh ships simply ceased to exist. 30 vessels vaporized in seconds. The organic hulls had no chance against that heat. They burned like paper in a furnace. But the Karvesh did not stop. They kept coming. More ships pushed forward, firing their bioweapons. Green and purple projectiles flew toward the dragon line. Some hit. Jakob saw dragons reel from impacts, saw their scales crack and bleed that strange black blood. But the dragons did not break. They folded their wings and dove into the Karvesh formation. Claws that could tear through asteroid hulls ripped into bioships. Tails as thick as cargo haulers smashed through enemy lines. The dragons fought with a fury that Jakob had never seen from any living thing. In the communications center, everyone watched in silence. The battle filled the screens. Ships exploded. Dragons roared. The void itself seemed to burn. It was beautiful and terrible and completely impossible. They are doing it, Chen breathed. Jakob, they are actually winning. She was right. The Karvesh were falling back. Their numbers were dropping fast. The dragons pursued them like wolves chasing prey. More plasma breath. More claw strikes. More death. Then Jakob saw something that made his blood freeze. One massive Karvesh ship, larger than all the others, emerged from behind the main fleet. It was the size of a small moon. Weapons covered every surface. As Jakob watched, it began to glow. Not with light, but with darkness. A black energy that seemed to pull at the stars themselves. Chen, Jakob said quietly. What is that? Chen checked her sensors. Her face went white. I do not know. But the energy reading is... Jakob, it is charging something. Something massive. If that fires... Jakob, the massive Karvesh ship fired. The weapon was not a beam or a projectile. It was more like a hole, torn in space itself. A wound in reality that spread across the battlefield. Dragons caught in its path simply fell. They did not die immediately. They just stopped moving, stopped glowing, fell toward the planet like stones. 15 dragons fell. 20. 25. The weapon swept across the dragon formation. Like a scythe through wheat. Jakob watched in horror as the magnificent creatures dropped from the sky, their lights going out one by one. No, he whispered. No, no, no. The dragons were going to lose. And when they lost, the Karvesh would come for Ashengard. Come for the 3,000 people huddled in shelters. Come for everyone Jakob had sworn to protect. He had no plan, no hope, no chance. He just had 3 minutes before the end of everything. Jakob watched the falling dragons spiral toward Ashengarde's surface. Their massive bodies tumbled through the atmosphere, leaving trails of fire. He could not look away. Each falling dragon was a light going out. Each one was a hope dying. The big ship is charging again, Chen said, her voice shaking. Jakob, if it fires that weapon one more time, the dragons will not survive. And then, she did not finish. She did not have to. Jakob knew what came next. The Karvesh would sweep over Ashengard like locusts over a field. 3,000 people would die screaming as they were consumed, turned into raw material for the collective. On the screen, the remaining dragons regrouped. They were still fighting, still breathing fire, still tearing into the smaller Karvesh ships. but they were tired. Jakob could see it in the way they moved. Slower, less precise. The battle was taking its toll. Rum. The massive Karvesh vessel's weapon began to glow again. That terrible black light building. In seconds, it would fire. More dragons would fall. And then, it would be over. Jakob opened the colony communication channel one last time. "This is Administrator Thorn. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I tried. We all tried. The dragons tried. It was not enough. To everyone in the shelters, stay together. Stay with your families. I wish I could have done more." He reached to close the channel. His hand was halfway to the button when space itself tore open. It was not a hole like the Karvesh weapon. This was different. Reality split like fabric. And through that split came light. Pure, golden light that made the sensors scream. Jakob threw his arm up to shield his eyes even though he was just looking at screens. "What is that?" someone shouted. Chen worked her console frantically. "I do not know. The sensors cannot read it. It is too bright. Too much energy." Through the tears in space, they came. More dragons. Hundreds more. These were different from the first group. Larger. Ancient. Their scales shone like mirrors, reflecting the light of distant stars. Some had 4 wings instead of 2. Others had multiple heads. These were not just dragons. These were legends come to life. And at the front of this new armada flew one dragon Jakob recognized. Even after 8 years, even across the vast distance, he knew those scars, knew that pattern of healing burns across its neck and side. The dragon from the canyon. Velkreth. Alive. The ancient dragons did not wait. They did not pause. They hit the Karvesh fleet like a hammer striking glass. The sound was not a sound, but a pressure that made the entire communications center shake. Alarms blared, screens flickered. Velkreth went straight for the massive Karvesh ship, the one with the terrible weapon, the one that had been about to fire again. Velkreth's mouth opened impossibly wide. And what came out was not fire. It was starlight itself. A beam of such pure energy that it made the earlier plasma breath look like candle flames. The beam struck the Karvesh ship's weapon port dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the entire front section of the massive ship exploded outward. The weapon was destroyed, torn apart by energy it could not contain. The Karvesh vessel tried to retreat, but the ancient dragons were already on it. Claws the size of buildings ripped through its hull. Multiple dragons clamped their jaws on different sections and pulled. The ship came apart like wet paper. The collective inside poured out into space, freezing instantly in the void. "They are running," Chen shouted. She was right. The smaller Karvesh ships were breaking formation, scattering in all directions, trying to escape. But the dragons were faster. They chased down each fleeing ship. No mercy. No prisoners. Within minutes, the Karvesh fleet that had seemed so unstoppable was reduced to debris and frozen bodies spinning through space. The last Karvesh ship exploded in a burst of green light, and then it was over. The battle had lasted less than an hour. It felt like years. Silence filled the communication center. Everyone stared at the screens. At the field of debris, where a fleet had been. At the hundreds of dragons, now floating in orbit, around Ashengard. Waiting. "Are we alive?" someone whispered. Jakob realized he was shaking. His legs felt weak. He sat down heavily in his chair. "Chen, get me a full status report. Casualties, damage, everything." "On it," Chen said. Her fingers were still trembling as she worked. "Jakob, the dragons that fell earlier, they are not dead. Sensors show life signs. Weak, but there. They crashed in the northern valley. All of them. It is like they steered themselves to land together. Send medical teams, Jakob said immediately. I do not care if we do not know how to treat them. We have to try. Already dispatching teams, another officer confirmed. Chen looked up from her console. Jakob, one of the dragons is breaking orbit, coming down. It is heading straight for the colony center. ETA. 3 minutes. Jakob stood. His whole body ached, but he forced himself upright. Just one? Yes, the largest one. The one with the scars. Velkreth. The dragon from the canyon was coming to the surface. Jakob had no idea why. Maybe to deliver a message. Maybe to check if the colony had survived. Maybe for something else entirely. I am going out there, Jakob said. What? Chen looked at him like he had gone crazy. Jakob, we do not know what it wants. It could be dangerous. It just saved 3,000 lives, Jakob said. I think I can risk talking to it. He headed for the door. Wait, Chen called. I am coming with you. You do not get to do this alone. Jakob smiled despite everything. Fine, but stay behind me. They took the elevator to the surface. The shelter doors opened, and Jakob stepped out into the red sunlight of Aschengarde. The sky above was clear except for the distant shapes of dragons circling in orbit, and one shape getting larger. Coming closer, Velkreth descended like a falling mountain. Its wings spread wide, catching the air. The force of its landing shook the ground. Buildings rattled. Dust rose in clouds. The dragon folded its wings and looked down at Jakob with those same golden eyes he remembered from 8 years ago. Up close, Velkreth was even more impressive. And terrifying. Each scale was the size of Jakob's torso. Its teeth were longer than his legs. One swipe of those claws could cut a building in half. This was a creature that flew between stars and fought fleets. Behind Jakob, Chen made a small sound of fear. Jakob did not blame her, but he did not run. He stepped forward and looked up at the dragon. Velkreth lowered its massive head until its eye was level with Jakob. The dragon studied him. Then, impossibly, it spoke. Not in words Jakob could hear, but in words that formed directly in his mind. You, small one, you helped me when I was dying. You had no reason to help. No hope of reward. You spent your supplies on a creature you did not know. You stayed with me when you could have left. You showed mercy when none was required. Jakob could not speak, could barely breathe. The dragon's voice in his mind was overwhelming, like listening to thunder from the inside. I lived because of you, Velkreth continued. I returned to my people and told them of the human who showed kindness to a dying dragon. We are Drakthor. We are ancient. We value honor above all things, and we pay our debts. Velkreth raised its head and looked toward the colony, toward the shelters where 3,000 humans were hiding. You saved one dragon, so we saved your people. But this is not enough to repay the debt. A life freely given cannot be repaid with a single battle. The debt extends to your entire species. You are under our protection now. Any who threaten humanity threatens the Drakthor. Any who attack humans attacks dragons. Jakob found his voice. It came out as barely a whisper. Why? I saw you were hurt. I could not walk away. Velkreth's golden eye blazed. That is why. You could have walked away. Should have walked away. But you did not. Your species values life, even when there is no profit in saving it. This is rare in the universe. This is precious. The dragon turned its head toward the northern valley where the wounded dragons had crashed. Our injured will heal. Your medical teams are already trying to help them. This kindness, too, will be remembered. We offer you alliance, small one. We offer friendship. Your kind and our kind. Together. Will you accept? Jakob thought about the canyon. About sitting alone with a dying dragon. about using up all his supplies on a creature he did not know, about walking away without ever telling anyone. One choice, one moment of compassion, and it had changed everything. He looked up at Velkrith and smiled. Yes, we accept. Thank you. Thank you for saving us. No, Velkrith said, and Jakob could have sworn the dragon sounded amused. Thank you. For reminding us why civilization matters. For showing us that some creatures help simply because it is right. Your species has a place among the stars. Jakob Thorn. We will make sure you survive to fill it. The dragon spread its wings. With a single push, it launched itself into the air. Dust and wind buffeted Jakob and Chen. They watched Velkrith rise toward the waiting dragons in orbit, watched as the entire armada began to form a protective ring around Ashengarde. Chen grabbed Jakob's arm. Did that just happen? Did a dragon just promise to protect humanity? Jakob nodded slowly. His mind was still reeling. Yes, because 8 years ago, I helped one when it was dying. That is all I did. Just helped. Just helped, Chen repeated. She started laughing. Not from humor, but from sheer, overwhelming relief. You just helped. And saved the entire species. Jakob looked up at the sky, at the dragons standing guard. I guess the universe was keeping score after all. The news traveled fast. By the next morning, every human colony in known space had heard the story. Dragons were real. They had fought the Karvesh. They had won. And they had done it to protect one small colony on a frontier world called Ashengarde. Jakob's office was full of messages. The colonial government wanted reports. Earth Command wanted interviews. Scientists wanted access to the dragons. Everyone wanted something. Jakob ignored most of it. He had more important work to do. In the northern valley, 25 dragons lay recovering from the Karvesh weapon. Jakob had sent every medical team the colony had. Doctors, veterinarians, even engineers. Anyone who might help. The dragons were healing faster than anyone expected, but they were not at full strength yet. They needed time. Jakob stood at the valley entrance, looking at the scene. Humans in medical gear moved between the massive dragons, checking wounds, bringing water, doing whatever they could. The dragons watched them with patient golden eyes. Some even allowed the humans to touch them, to examine their scales and wings. It was Chen who figured out the communication problem. The dragons spoke mind to mind, but not all humans could hear them. Only a few. Jakob was one. Chen discovered she was another. They became translators, passing messages between dragons and humans. One of the wounded dragons, a smaller one named Kresh, explained the Karvesh weapon to Chen while Jakob listened. It disrupts the energy that keeps us aloft in space, Kresh said in that strange mental voice. Our bodies generate fields that let us fly between stars. The weapon breaks those fields. We fall. It does not kill us quickly, but if we fall too far, the impact will. How long until you can fly again? Chen asked. Days, maybe weeks. We heal. But slowly. Your people help. They bring water. They clean our wounds. They ask us what we need. This too is kindness. Kresh's eye focused on Jakob. Your kind is strange. Soft bodies. Short lives. No scales. No claws. Yet you face the darkness and do not break. I understand why Velkrith values you. Jakob felt uncomfortable with the praise. You do not understand yet, Kresh said. That afternoon, Velkrith landed near the colony center again. This time, Jakob was ready. He had arranged a meeting space in the main plaza. Tables and chairs for the human representatives. A large open area for Velkrith. The entire colonial council was present. Chen stood beside Jakob, ready to translate if needed. Velkrith settled onto the ground, wings folded. The dragon's massive head swiveled to look at the assembled humans. I bring words from the elder chorus. The decision is made. The Drakthor offer formal alliance to humanity. We wish to speak of the terms. Jakob stepped forward. His legs still shook slightly in the dragon's presence, but he kept his voice steady. We accept the offer of alliance. What terms do you propose? Protection, Velkrith said simply. We will shield your colonies from threats. The Karvesh will not touch another human world. Other predators will know that humanity stands under Dragonguard. In exchange, we ask only this. Continue to be who you are. Continue to show mercy. Continue to value life. Do not become like the Karvesh. Do not become consumers. One of the council members, an older woman named Torres, spoke up. That is all? You protect us, and we just stay good people? Velkreth's mental voice carried something like amusement. It is harder than you think. The universe is cold. Survival is difficult. Many species lose their compassion in the struggle. They become hard, cruel. They take what they need and destroy what they do not. We ask you to resist this. To remember what you are. To remember that strength includes kindness. Jakob nodded slowly. We can do that. But I have a question. Why us? Why humanity? There must be other species out there who show kindness. Why make this offer to us? The great dragon was quiet for a long moment. When Velkrith spoke again, the mental voice was softer. Because one of you helped me when I was dying. He could have walked away. He could have reported me to his superiors. He could have done nothing. But he chose to help. Not for reward. Not for recognition. Simply because it was right. This is rare. This is precious. This is what the universe needs more of. Velkreth's eye fixed on Jakob. You showed me that humanity, despite being young and weak in the cosmic scale, has something most ancient races have lost. Hope, compassion, the belief that life has value beyond its use. The Drakthor lost this once, long ago. We became warriors only. Fighters. We forgot why we fought. Then my people nearly went extinct. We fled. Active. We hid. We survived. But we were empty. The dragon's scales seemed to dim. When Jakob helped me, I remembered what we had been. What we should be. I told my people. The elder chorus debated. Some said one act meant nothing, but others remembered our old ways. They remembered when we too showed mercy. When we too protected the weak. Jakob reminded us of who we were before we became bitter. He reminded us that strength means nothing without purpose. Torres leaned forward. So this alliance is not just about protecting us, it is about saving yourselves too. Yes, Velkreth said. We need you as much as you need us. Your kind reminds us why civilization matters. Why we should care about more than survival. You give us purpose again, and we give you protection. Both species benefit. This is what true alliance means. Jakob felt something tight in his chest loosen. All this time, he had thought his choice in that canyon was about the dragon. But it was bigger than that. It was about what that choice represented. The idea that life mattered. That helping mattered. That kindness mattered even when no one was watching. We accept, Jakob said formally. Humanity accepts the alliance of the Drakthor. We will try to live up to your faith in us. You already do, Velkrith said. Your people are helping our wounded right now. They ask for nothing in return. They simply help because it is needed. This is who you are. Hold on to this. The universe will try to take it from you. War will come. Hardship will come. You will be tempted to become hard like stone. Resist. Stay soft like water. Water carves stone in time. The meeting continued for hours. They discussed practical matters. How to communicate across space. How to coordinate if the Karvesh returned. How to handle other species who might see the alliance as a threat. Chen took notes. The council asked questions. Velkreth answered with patience. As the sun began to set, painting the sky red and gold, Velkrith prepared to leave. The dragon stood and stretched its wings. I will remain in orbit with my people for now. The wounded need time to heal, and we want to ensure the Karvesh do not return. In time, some of my kind will visit human worlds, to learn, to teach, to build friendship between our species. You are welcome here anytime, Jakob said. Velkrith's eye met his. You gave me water when I was dying. You stayed when you could have left. You asked nothing in return. I will never forget this. Jakob Thorn. The Drakthor will never forget this. Your name is written in our history now. The human who showed mercy to a dragon and changed the fate of 2 species. I was just trying to help. Jakob protested. That is why it mattered, Velkrith said. The dragon launched into the air, wings beating. The wind from the takeoff made everyone step back. They watched Velkrith rise toward the stars, toward the waiting dragons in orbit. Torres stood beside Jakob, watching the sky. Did we just make history? I think we did, Jakob said. Because you helped a dying dragon 8 years ago. Yes. Torres shook her head. The universe is strange. Jakob smiled. The universe is keeping score. I just did not know it until now. That night, Jakob sat alone in his apartment. He pulled up old files on his personal computer. Survey reports from 8 years ago. He found the entry for that day in the canyon. The day he had marked as equipment malfunction. The day he had hidden the truth. He opened a new file and began to write. The real story. About finding a wounded dragon. About helping it. About watching it disappear into the darkness. About never knowing if it lived or died. About the choice to show mercy even when it seemed pointless. He wrote it all down. Every detail. Because future humans would need to know. Would need to understand. This was not just his story. This was humanity's story. The story of what could happen when someone chose kindness over convenience. When someone chose to help instead of walk away. Jakob saved the file and sent it to the Colonial Archives. Let history remember. Let them know that one small act in a dark canyon had rippled across the stars. Let them know that the dragons remembered. Let them know that mercy mattered. Outside his window, the night sky was full of stars. And circling those stars, protecting the small colony below, flew hundreds of dragons, standing guard, keeping watch, honoring a debt that one human had never asked them to pay. Jakob looked up at them and whispered, "Thank you." In his mind, very faintly, he heard a reply. Velkrith's voice, across the distance. "No. Thank you. For showing us the way home. For reminding us who we are. For proving that kindness is not weakness. Thank you, Jakob Thorn. Thank you for being human." Jakob smiled and went to bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The alliance was just beginning. There would be difficulties, misunderstandings, growing pains. But they would face it together. Humans and dragons. 2 species learning to trust each other. All because one man had stopped in a canyon and decided to help. The universe had been keeping score. And kindness, it turned out, had won. 6 months passed. The universe changed. The story spread from colony to colony, world to world, system to system. Dragons were real. They protected humanity now. The Karvesh collective had retreated from human space, their momentum broken. Other hostile species reconsidered their plans. Nobody wanted to fight creatures that could fly through space and breathe starfire. Jakob stood in the new diplomatic center on Ashengarda and watched ships land. Not just human ships anymore. Other species were coming. Curious. Cautious. Wanting to understand this new alliance. Wanting to know if humanity and the Drakthor would be friends or threats. Chen walked up beside him, carrying a datapad. She was his assistant now. Officially, Jakob was the ambassador to the Drakthor, a title he still found ridiculous. "You have 3 meetings today," Chen said. The Zentari trade delegation at noon, the Overon scientists at 2. And Velkreth wants to see you at sunset. What does Velkreth want? Jakob asked. Would not say. Just said it was important. Chen smiled. When does a dragon ever say what they really want? Ahead of time. Jakob laughed. Over the past months, he had learned that dragons enjoyed being mysterious. They liked surprises. Liked watching humans figure things out. It was one of their quirks. One of many. The meetings went well. The Zentari wanted to establish trade routes through human space. With the dragons protecting those routes, piracy would drop to almost nothing. The Overon scientists wanted to study dragon biology, with permission. They were fascinated by creatures that could survive in the void of space. Jakob negotiated carefully. The alliance was still new. Still fragile. One wrong move could break the trust they had built. But he was learning. The key was to think about what was right, not just what was profitable. The dragons respected that. When the sun began to set, Jakob walked to the landing field. Velkreth was already there, waiting. The massive dragon looked different now. Healthier. Stronger. The scars from that day in the canyon were still visible, but they had faded. Healed over time, though they would never fully disappear. You wanted to see me? Jakob said, walking closer. Velkreth lowered its head in greeting. Yes. I have news. The Elder Chorus has made a decision. We are sending young dragons to human worlds. To learn from you. To grow up alongside human children. To build bonds that will last generations. Jakob blinked in surprise. Dragon children? Here. Not just here. Many worlds. Wherever humans will accept them. We believe the young ones will learn faster, will adapt better, and human children will grow up knowing dragons as friends, not legends. The alliance will become natural, normal, unbreakable. Jakob thought about it. Dragon younglings playing with human kids, growing up together, learning together. It was brilliant and terrifying. Are your people okay with this? Sending their children to live with aliens? Some fear it. Velkreth admitted. But most understand. This is how true peace is built. Not through treaties and agreements. Through friendship. Through shared experience. Through children who do not remember a time when dragons and humans were not allies. When? Jakob asked. Soon. Within weeks. The first group will come here. To Ashengarde. Your colony will be the model for others. If it works here, it will spread. Velkreth's golden eye studied Jakob. You will guide this. Teach the humans how to live with dragons. Teach the dragons how to live with humans. You are the bridge between our kinds. Jakob felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. But he did not shy away from it. I will do my best. Af. That is all we ask, Velkreth said. Your best has been enough so far. The dragon fell silent for a moment. Then it spoke again. More softly. There is something else. Something you should know. The Karvesh weapon that wounded our people. We have seen it before, long ago. The enemy that nearly destroyed us used similar technology. We thought that enemy was gone. Dead. But now, we wonder. Jakob felt cold despite the warm evening air. You think they are still out there? We do not know. But we will search. We will find out. And if they are still alive, still threatening the galaxy, we will face them. But this time, we will not face them alone. We have you. We have humanity. We have allies. Velkreth's scales seemed to glow slightly in the fading light. You saved me in a canyon when I was alone and dying. Now neither of our species will ever be alone again. Jakob reached out and placed his hand on Velkreth's scales. They were warm, solid, real. Thank you. For everything. For saving us. For trusting us. For giving us this chance. Thank you for giving me a reason to survive, Velkrith replied. Thank you for showing me that the universe still has light in it. Thank you for being the kind of creature who helps, even when there is no reward. The dragon spread its wings. I must return to my people. But I will be back. I will always come back to Ashengarde. This world is special. This is where it all began, where a human showed mercy to a dragon and changed everything. Velkrith launched into the sky. Jakob watched until the dragon was just a distant speck among the stars. Then he turned and walked back toward the colony. There was work to do. Preparations to make. Dragon younglings would be arriving soon. The colony needed to be ready. 3 weeks later, the first dragon younglings arrived. 5 of them. Each was about the size of a large truck. Still massive by human standards, but small for dragons. They looked around the colony with wide, curious eyes. Everything was new to them. Everything was exciting. The human children were equally excited. They had grown up hearing stories about dragons. Now they would get to meet them, play with them, learn with them. The colony had set up a special school. Mixed classes. Human teachers and dragon teachers. A place where 2 species could grow together. Jakob watched the first day of class from the observation window. A young dragon named Shira was trying to understand a math problem. A human girl named May was explaining it, using building blocks to show the concept. Shira's eyes lit up with understanding. Both children laughed. In another corner, a human boy named Keon was asking a young dragon named Vex about flying. Vex tried to explain in halting mental words, struggling to find concepts a human could understand. Other children gathered around to listen. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was perfect. Chen stood beside Jakob, watching the same scene. Think it will work? Yes, Jakob said. Look at them. They do not see differences. They just see friends. Kids are smarter than adults sometimes. Most of the time, Jakob agreed. The months turned into years. The program spread to other colonies. More dragons came. More friendships formed. Human scientists worked with dragon scientists. Human engineers learned from dragon biology. Dragons learned human technology. Both species grew stronger together. The Karvesh never returned to human space. Word spread that the dragons protected humanity. Other aggressive species gave human colonies a wide berth. Piracy dropped. Trade flourished. The frontier worlds that had struggled for survival began to thrive. Jakob was offered a promotion. Earth Command wanted him to come to the homeworld. Serve in the central government. He refused. His place was here, on Ashengard, where it all started, where humans and dragons learned to live together. On the 5-year anniversary of the battle, the colony held a celebration. Humans and dragons filled the main plaza. Children of both species played together. Adults talked and laughed. Food was shared. Stories were told. Velkrith landed in the center of the plaza. The massive dragon had become a regular visitor to Ashengard. The colonists knew him now, respected him, loved him. Children would run up to him without fear, asking for rides on his back. He always said yes. Jakob walked through the crowd until he stood before Velkrith. The dragon lowered its head in greeting. 5 years, Velkrith said. 5 years since we fought the Karvesh. 5 years since the alliance began. Look at what we have built together. Jakob looked around. Saw humans and dragons living side by side. Saw children of both species learning together. Saw scientists collaborating. Saw a future that neither species could have built alone. It is beautiful. It almost did not happen. Velkrith said quietly. If you had walked away from that canyon, if you had not helped, if you had chosen differently, none of this would exist. I know, Jakob said. I think about that sometimes. How one choice changed everything. It was the right choice, Velkrith said. Not the easy choice, not the safe choice, but the right one. You proved that morality is not weakness, that compassion has power, that kindness can reshape the universe. Jakob smiled. I was just trying to help a dying creature. I did not know I was reshaping anything. That is what makes it matter, Velkrith replied. You helped because it was right, not because of what you might gain. That is the difference between humanity and the Karvesh. The Karvesh take, humanity gives. The Karvesh consume, humanity creates. The Karvesh destroy, humanity builds. A young dragon flew overhead, chased by laughing human children. They were playing tag, a game both species had learned to love. The dragon youngster roared playfully, and the children shouted back. Joy was a universal language. What do you think comes next? Jakob asked. What does the future hold? Velkrith's golden eyes gleamed. More of this. More growth. More friendship. More learning. The Drakthor have accepted that our role is to protect. Humanity has accepted that your role is to remind us why protection matters. Together, we will make the galaxy a better place. We will stand against the darkness. We will be the light. No pressure, Jakob said with a laugh. You have already proven you can handle it, Velkrith said. You stood in a canyon with a dying dragon and chose mercy. If you can do that, you can do anything. The celebration continued long into the night. Music played. Dances were shared. Stories were told around fires. Human stories and dragon stories. Tales of the past and dreams of the future. Jakob found himself standing at the edge of the celebration, looking up at the stars. So many stars. So many worlds. So many possibilities. The universe was vast and often cruel, but it was also full of moments like this. Moments of connection. Moments of hope. Chen appeared beside him again. She seemed to have a talent for showing up at quiet moments. What are you thinking about? Why? That canyon, Jakob said. 8 years ago, I stood there and made a choice. I had no idea what would happen. No idea it mattered so much. Would you do it again? Chen asked. If you could go back, knowing everything that happened after, would you still help? Jakob did not hesitate. Yes. Every time. Even if nothing had come from it. Even if the dragon had died anyway. I would still help. Because that is who I want to be. Someone who helps when they can. Someone who shows mercy. Someone who chooses kindness. Chen nodded. That is why the dragons chose us. That is why this alliance works. Because humans like you exist. Because we have not lost our compassion. Because we still believe in doing the right thing. Not just me, Jakob said. Look around. Everyone here chose to welcome the dragons. To trust them. To build this alliance. I started it, maybe. But everyone else kept it going. Everyone else made it real. He turned away from the stars and looked at the celebration. At humans and dragons together. At children who did not know a time before the alliance. At a future full of hope. They asked me why I saved it, Jakob said softly. Repeating words he had said many times before. I told them the truth. Because it was the right thing to do. I never imagined the universe was keeping score, Chen smiled. But it was. It is. Every choice matters. Every act of kindness ripples outward. You proved that. Jakob looked up one more time. Somewhere in orbit, hundreds of dragons kept watch, protecting the colony, honoring a debt that had been paid 1,000 times over, but that they insisted on continuing to pay, because that was who the Drakthor were. That was what honor meant to them. And below, on the surface of Ashengarde, humans and dragons lived together in peace, learning, growing, building a future that neither species could have imagined alone. All because one man had stopped in a canyon 8 years ago. All because he had chosen mercy. all because the universe had been keeping score.